Hello, everyone. I'm very excited for this one. I'm very excited to share this episode with you guys. I've just recently created the YouTube channel to promote all the podcasts that I've been putting out on all of my other social medias, including Spotify, Apple Music, the podcast app. It's everywhere. Uh, this is one of the most highly requested ones to get out to you guys. So here we are. It was episode 91, so I only recorded a couple months ago. Got the lovely Cooper Chapman. Um, A1, he's just a great human. But B, he runs a company that promotes mental health and well-being. He goes across Australia, working with massive corporations, schools, the lot, to promote gratitude, health, and well-being, and basically the idea that if you can put 1% of your day into your mental health, yeah, you can watch a lot happen and a lot of cool things will come from that. Without further ado, I'm pretty keen to just jump straight into this episode. I hope you guys enjoy it and you get a lot out of it. I'll see you on the next one, guys. Hello, guys, and welcome back to yet another episode of the Will and Friends podcast. This is one I am pumped for. It has been hard to get this man on. He wouldn't know it, but I've been following him for a good little while, and he's had a pretty big influence on me. I'm not gonna lie. So it is a little bit surreal and very, very cool to be able to get time from him. His name's Cooper Chapman. He is the founder of the Good Human Factory. He's also the host of the Good Humans podcast. I've got it listed here. He's also got some Good Humans merch, so probably go check that out. And what I'm interested about is he's got a seltzer out, Gravity Seltzer, that I've got plants, trees across Australian bushland. Overall, it seems like this guy makes a massive impact, and I've certainly learned a lot from him. So very excited to get the man Cooper Chapman on. How are we doing, mate?
Doing very well, my man. Thank you for having me on, and sorry for my rescheduling last weekend. We're recording this on a Sunday morning. It's usually my sleep in, but today I had a cruisy Sunday, so we could make it happen. So great to be here, and looking forward to having a chat.
Love it. Love it. I thought I'd start. I think it's only fair. Can I please get three things you are grateful for today, mate?
Oh, three things I'm grateful for. I was just telling you before we started recording that I got to catch up with one of my good friends who actually broke his neck at X Games a couple of weeks ago riding a motorbike. So grateful that I got to go and see him this morning. He's in good spirits and going to make a full recovery. Didn't do any spinal cord injury, so grateful for that. Grateful that the weather's beautiful here on the Gold Coast. It's a really nice day, and grateful that it's grand final day for the NRL. So looking forward to a nice cruisy Sunday, finishing up with watching some footy tonight. So a few things I'm grateful for today.
Love it. Who are you tipping?
Um, ah, I quite like the Panthers. I've enjoyed watching the Panthers over the last couple of years. I feel like there's something special about watching a team that's kind of grown up together through their youth and then playing, and then like the father and son thing with Cleary and his dad. And I mean, I grew up in Sydney, so I'll tip and go for the Panthers, I think, tonight.
We've put it out in writing. It's going to happen. Let's see that happen. Now, there's a lot I want to go through. There is so many different topics to touch on with yourself, mate. You're someone that has a lot of experience in quite a few different areas. I am keen to get a good bit of a backstory on yourself, but I think the first place to start is probably with a Good Human Factory. I think that's a really, really solid point to start. I don't know too much about the backstory of why it started up, so I'm very curious into that because I know it didn't come from nothing. So if I can ask, what really did inspire you to start the movement of the Good Human Factory? And I guess explaining a little bit more about what it actually is.
Yeah, so the Good Human Factory, I guess, is my mental health organization, is the best way to call it. And the real thing that I'm trying to do with the Good Human Factory is make people realize that there's a bit of a difference between mental health and mental illness. And 20% of us will be affected by mental illness statistically here in Australia, but 100% of us have mental health. So I'm really trying to come on the other side of the spectrum, trying to help people develop really simple skills and habits that are scientifically proven to make us feel good. But I guess the backstory why mental health is so important to me. When I was quite young, sort of 7 or 8, I think I lost an uncle to suicide, and that was pretty difficult for myself and my family to deal with. I then watched my dad struggle quite a bit throughout my teen years with his own mental health, a bit of depression, anxiety, alcoholism, and because of this, I was always really fearful. Maybe I'm gonna, end up with a mental illness like the men in my family. So because of this, I was always forward thinking, what little things can I put in place so, if I get to that point of struggle, I've, got a bit of resilience to get through it. I never had any intention of, starting a business or talking to anybody about this stuff, but in my mid 20s, when I was about 25, my youngest sister was in her last year of high school in year 12. I've got three sisters, and she came home from school one day and had let us know that one of the boys in her year had passed away from a car crash. And that was a really difficult thing for myself and my sister to, watch her go through that, watching a friend pass away. But then 2 weeks later, we were sitting around the dinner table, and yeah, my younger sister let us know that another friend had passed away, but this time by suicide. And, it just didn't sit well with me. At the time, I was a professional surfer, traveling the world, living this extraordinary life. But then there was kids in my local area that, were taking their own life because they were struggling so much with their mental health. And I just thought, maybe I can go and share some of these lessons that I've been really fortunate to learn through working with, high level sports psychologists through my own fear of mental illness. I discovered all of this really simple stuff that had really helped me on my journey. So that was kind of the catalyst and the starting point for the Good Human Factor. I went and spoke to a old school teacher friend of mine and told him about, the suicides at these others, that my sister's school, and said, do you reckon maybe I could come and talk to some of the kids at our old school and share a bit of my journey and some of these things I learned that I never got taught at school, and maybe it can help one or two of the kids. And yeah, that was 5 years ago now. I now do it full time. I've spoken to over 40,000 students all around the country. I also now do corporate workshops. I've worked with companies like Apple, Telstra, McDonald's, Red Bull, Amazon, Westpac, Coles, and just got to share my story and really try and shift this perspective of mental health and make it a little bit more achievable to kind of give that 1% of our day to our mental health. I think mental health awareness is really at an all-time high, which is so important.
Hmm.
But it's really important that we take mental health action. We're actually doing some things that bring us back towards, the good end of the mental health spectrum. So that's a really quick, I guess, snapshot of why mental health is important to me, the catalyst to why I started doing what I do, and yeah, the messaging that I'm really trying to get across to help people on their journey.
Fantastic. It is one of those things. Like, I've got gratitude tattooed on me for a friend who passed away. As it's something that I try and practice a lot. It's something that I feel like, don't want to single out blokes, but a lot of blokes kind of seem to stray away from that and journaling and all those sort of soft things. But I've found it to be something that is essential. So, just in a person, I really appreciate the message you have been spreading over the last 5 years. I'm sure it's made a massive impact for a lot of people. I kind of want to narrow into that first little bit. When you first went to your old school, presenting there, I'm sure that wouldn't have been easy. Presenting, like, was that something that came naturally? Like, was the drive just large enough to go and make it happen? Like, because I see a lot of people that they get that these things are important, but they stay on the back foot with it. They don't actually take action.
Yeah, I mean, I think this why has just been so strong always in my message that I've never really felt like it's not gonna work, if that makes sense. Like when I first started going and sharing my story with students, like I was so bad at presenting. I look back at some of my old presentations, actually. People won't be able to see it, but you'll be able to see this. Like this was my first presentation, like how bad it was. I like did it on on clip art or whatever it is on Microsoft PowerPoint. And it looks like a year six presentation. Like it is so bad, but I had to start somewhere, and I had no idea where it was going to go when I started. But I just thought maybe these little lessons that have profoundly changed the direction of my life can help one or two of these kids. So my fear of public speaking, just like all of us have, was smaller than my desire to try and help these kids. And yeah, I started, and it was a very slow start, if I'm being very honest. The first year of presenting, I probably did two presentations. Like to get your foot in the door at schools is really difficult because you need the credibility, you need your working with children check, you need like, hey, why is this guy coming in? Like, is he going to actually get any impact to these students? So the first sort of 12 months, I think I delivered two workshops because at the time I was still surfing professionally. I was working full time as a tradie when I was home from my surf contest because I had no sponsor. So I was funding my surf career by 40 to 50 hours a week on the tools as like a laborer. So the Good Human Factory was nothing at the very start, if I'm being completely honest. But COVID actually was the thing that really took it off for me. When COVID hit in 2020, I kind of got told by my accountant, like, hey, because your pro surfing stuff's all got cancelled, you can qualify for JobKeeper. So you can, spend a bit of time maybe building the Good Human Factory while you can get this small bit of income by the government. So that allowed me to move away from home in Sydney, and I moved up to Byron Bay with a few friends in a bit of a creative house, and that allowed me to educate myself a bit more for sure. Like I did a few short courses on mental health and well-being and my mental health first aid, and just started to, really expand my mind of things that we can do for our mental health. And that's when I started to yeah, develop my workshop a lot better than the one that I just showed you then. That was like very basic. I learnt what Canva was and, put together a workshop that was a lot more flowy and my skills got better. But also it was COVID, so I couldn't go and do any of these school workshops. So that's when I decided it was time to go turn into something more than just doing these workshops. That's when I launched my podcast in 2020, where I was like, I want to interview experts in mental health and athletes and learn their stories so maybe I can learn from them. That's when I launched my merchandise for the first time to put like powerful little quotes and messaging on shirts and stuff so that when people wear it, they can maybe, be inspired by the messaging. So yeah, that was like the initial starting point. But to be honest, like the business didn't actually make a dollar until like 2 years into it. I hadn't even registered the business name or started bank accounts. It was more so just 100% the giving aspect of, if I can help a few kids here and there, then amazing. I've sort of, achieved what I'm hopefully setting out to do. And then I kind of got exposed to the fact that public speaking is a really high in demand industry. And, if you're good at it and you can convey a message and it can connect with people and they can get value out of it, then it's actually quite a lucrative thing, which I had no idea at the start. And then I just started to, charge a small amount for my workshops and started to get feedback and get a QR code which would give me feedback. And if the feedback was negative, I was like, great, I can use that to improve. And if the feedback was positive, I was like, great, I can use that for marketing to try and get more workshops. So it was a very slow transition of new idea, try it, doesn't work, all right, not think, all right, I'm failing, think, okay, I'll think of nothing, something else new. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of went everywhere there, and you've probably got 100 questions from where I just went. But that was kind of the first couple years of it. Was just like try stuff. Oh, I'll try merch. I'll try a podcast. I'll create a community. I'll do these workshops, and everything's just slowly grown into what it is now.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's just really cool to hear it. Like the way I see it is, I've got a massive motto kind of keep in my head is just keep providing value. If you keep providing value, you'll get a return. It doesn't matter
Yeah,
when, it's just keep giving. I love that. You just say your first 2 years was just you giving, not looking for anything in return. And obviously, that's how you can set up stuff on the business side of things. But I think the larger scale thing is you just made such a huge impact for so many people.
yeah.
Which
I mean, that's something that I was very lucky to learn throughout. Towards the end of my professional surf career, I started to like scratch my head and be like, this isn't as fulfilling as I dreamed of it being, achieving goals in my surf career, being ranked in the top 100 surfers in the planet, traveling the world. Like, I have so much gratitude and had the most incredible time ever, but I just felt like it still wasn't all there. And
mm,
then I started to get sort of exposed to this concept that we climb these two mountains in life. The first one is about like self-fulfillment and achievement. But then you look over once you get close to the top of that one, and then you see like this other mountain, and that's the mountain of service to others. And that's where, you really get this deep fulfillment. And I just feel very privileged that I kind of was exposed to this idea in my mid 20s and got to try and set up a career after my athlete career in a space of service. And, I've been very fortunate that I've had some great opportunities and network of people to help me grow with what I'm doing. And yeah, now it's got to a point where it's my full-time job. And yeah, it's helping thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people over the 5 year lifespan it's been around. And yeah, it doesn't look like it's slowing down. So yeah, very grateful for the sort of life by design that I feel like I've created.
100%. Narrowing into 2024, what do you think has been, it's going to be hard to single out something, but what do you think has been kind of like the highlight? Like, what has been the highlight in this? What sort of impact that you've seen you made? And it's like, damn, that one feels fulfilling.
Um, I mean, there's no specific one thing that stood out. I've had a lot of things that have happened, to be honest, in the last couple of weeks. It's amazing. Like I'm about to do this cool collab with LSKD, collaborating with one of Australia's fastest growing athlete and, brands that is amazing. I got to interview their founder recently, Jason, who became a friend, and I said it'd be great to do a collab shirt to raise some awareness around mental health, but in our both way that's a bit more cool and action oriented, and they jumped on that. So for World Mental Health Day, we've got a really cool collab coming with them, which I know is just going to really expand the message. I get messages every single day that the podcast is making impact, but the thing that I'm probably most proud of, to be honest, is this community that I created called the 1% Good Club. It's been around for 3 years, but I think it's really starting to show the impact it can have now. So the idea of the 1% Good Club was, I believe, and hopefully anyone listening should agree, that we should be able to give 1% of our 24-hour day to our mental health. It's the biggest killer of people aged 14 to 45 in the country. It's so important, but most of us aren't doing anything each day for it, and that's okay. So 1% of a 24-hour day is 14 minutes. So I was like, well, what can we squeeze into 14 minutes a day that's good for your mental health, that costs nothing, that has a very low barrier? So I was like, meditation or mindfulness is something that anyone you speak to who is calm, present, practices mindfulness. Um, so I was like, all right, 10 minutes of meditation in the morning. And then what's another thing that's really good for our mental health? Practicing gratitude, stopping, reflecting, building that self awareness to look back at the good things in our day, releases the chemicals that make us feel good. So I was like, 4 minutes of gratitude at night, 10 minutes of meditation in the morning, there's 14 minutes. But I was also aware that I think it's 5 times more likely to maintain a healthy habit if you have a community around you. So I was like, well, all of us bloody use Instagram. Why not use it for a little bit of good in our day? So I created these group chats where every morning I send a link that you can click on that's a YouTube link to a 10-minute meditation. And every single night I write 3 things I'm grateful for. I post it on my Instagram story. I then send that story to these group chats, and then everybody writes their 3 things they're grateful for from their day. So I started it over 3 years ago now, and in those 3 years, I haven't missed a day. It's grown from, I think, 30 people on the first day to close to 2,000 now. There's 9 group chats with around 200 in each group chat. And each day, everyone writes their gratitudes. And I think there's been like, I'm guessing, but based on kind of the math of it, I haven't I used to count it, but it just got too outrageous. But I'm pretty sure we're over 500,000 gratitudes have been sent
Wow.
in the past 3 years. So to be honest, out of things that I'm probably proud of, that's probably the biggest one, just because it's a free community that doesn't cost anything. It's just my way of showing up every day, consistently every day for 3 years. And the main thing is it's me doing it for myself. I know now that I'm doing this 10 minutes in the morning and this 4 minutes of gratitude at night every day, which is good for my mental health. And the fact that I can bring 2,000 people on this journey, and anyone listening right now can join. All you have to do is send at the Good Human Factory a DM on Instagram saying, I want to join the club. You get added in. If you enjoy it, amazing, stay in. If it's not for you, you can leave at any time. It's just my way to give back. And the concept kind of was like off the back of my mind of hearing Gary Vee always say, like, give, 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 give to your community, and then try and ask them for something. So I'm like, all right, I give every day to my community. And now hopefully when I drop, this merchandise or a podcast episode, they all go and check it out and support the other stuff that I do. So of things that, I think that was the question you
Yeah,
said at the
yeah,
start, what
sure.
I'm most proud of, probably that community. Because like I get so many people being like, hey, this has changed my life. This has allowed me to stop and reflect, and just thinking like the sheer volume of 500,000 positive things that have happened in somebody's life have been stopped and thought about because of this community that I just came up with a couple of years ago.
Yeah. I think the thing for me is a lot of us always lean to what we don't have rather than what we do have. That's kind of the way our brains seem to like to work. Uh,
Negativity.
yeah. So going into that, it's such a simple thing, but I love the accountability, the community, everything there makes it amazing. Like it's something when I jumped into what I do, I work in sales and marketing. And obviously, we're talking to people every day. We use what we call a KPI sheet that we just track our numbers on day to day. And at the top of it, of every single KPI sheet, every day, it says, write 3 things you're grateful for every single
Awesome.
time. So I'd been doing it since I started. So since 3 years ago, every day that I jump in the field, you write it out. And it's something that I didn't think much of it when I started, but I think subconsciously it's just kept me going so much.
Well, it's like thinking like, oh, if you just do 10 sit-ups a day, it doesn't really feel like much, but you compound that over a year, hey, you're going to have a six pack. You do three things you're grateful for in your mind every day for a year, you're going to have a six-pack brain. I mean, don't quote me. I'm not a scientist and I'm not a, mental health expert. I'm not a psychologist, but these are all just things that from interviewing experts on my podcast, I've learned scientifically make us feel a little bit better. So if we compound that, it's just going to let us see the world through a tiny different light. It's going to change the synapses in our brains to be a little bit more positive and look for the positive in the world.
Yeah. I think I want a six pack brain. I think I want that.
Yeah.
Now the last one, kind of narrowing in on what's happened for yourself. I always love to ask this question. It can be a hard one to ask, but what is something new you have learned about yourself this year?
I've learned about myself this year. That you can be really bloody happy in life. I lived like such an amazing experience traveling the world surfing. And don't get me wrong, I was so happy and had some amazing moments, but I think there's a difference between like happiness and contentment. And
Hmm.
now with I guess the life that I'm living, trying to live by values, I get have my bad days for sure, and I have my days that I'm, feeling down, but I just feel this deep sense of contentment. And I think obviously it does come from the work that I'm doing and the people that I have in my life. And I feel so privileged that, I have healthy family. I have a beautiful partner, which we're going through our challenges. We're doing distance. She's in Brazil right now. But just this mindset of, like, I say this to my partner when we're going through stuff, just like every little thing is going to be all right. Like, and if it's not, that's okay too. Like, we can't control things that are out of our control. So I think that's something I've learned about myself is that I can get to, a place of, while going through challenge, still be content and, happy and know that everything's going to be all right.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Now, I think you've kind of touched on a couple of different ones, and it was something I was really keen on getting into if you didn't bring it up yourself about the 1% of your day, the 14 minutes, the daily gratitudes for over 3 years. It's fantastic. The question is pretty simple. What are the biggest do's? And I guess on top of that, importantly, don'ts you preach and live by in order to protect your mental health?
I mean, I think the first one is don't be so hard on yourself. Like, I think the first thing is like our self-sabotage in our own mind is like the biggest challenge that we're going to face. So the relationship that we build with ourselves is so important, and I just don't think enough of us do that. So I think the first thing that I really try and encourage people to do is just build a bit of self-awareness. Like if you're going through a lot of challenges in your life, like look back, where's your role in those challenges? And it can be hard sometimes because it hurts our ego, it hurts our pride, but it's a lot easier to control, I mean, to change yourself than it is to change everyone else around you. So just, I think building self-awareness is step one because what I'm going to say next is impossible unless we have that self-awareness. So, I mean, the five things that I really talk about for do's is taking responsibility is step one, like really trying to shift from that victim mindset to that hero mindset. Like, what can I do rather than what I can't do, rather than blaming and pointing at everyone around me. Okay, what can I do? So, step one, I think, is taking responsibility for our mental health and realizing, that my actions do lead to different outcomes. Step two that I encourage people to do every day is just practice gratitude. It's such a simple thing that most of us aren't doing, and you might not see the benefits just by doing it, but you will feel it eventually once you start to, view the world through a different lens. So I say to people, when you brush your teeth at night, just start thinking, okay, what were the best parts about my day? Or if you get to sit and enjoy dinner with a partner, a family friend, a friend, or, somebody that's, in your life, just asking them, hey, what's the best part about your day today? Watch them get to talk about something positive, which makes them feel good, which will make you feel good too. The next thing is practicing mindfulness. I think being present is so rare nowadays. There's so much going on in all of our heads, like so many thoughts. I think it's something around like 6,000 thoughts a day. 75% of them are usually negative, and 95% of them are repetitive. I think everyone can agree it's important to maybe try and dial that 75% down to maybe 50, 40. And what I found one of the best ways to do that is to build that self awareness through practicing mindfulness, through sitting with your thoughts from time to time. As uncomfortable as it might feel, to improve this relationship, you need to work on it. You can't just like, oh, avoid your thoughts and go on your phone or watch a movie or catch up with friends and like it is hard the work, but when you sit with those thoughts from time to time and, build the metacognition and take, note, wow, these thoughts are unhelpful, they're untrue, wouldn't speak to my worst enemy the way I speak to myself quite often. So improving that relationship for me, I've found, and through the research I've done and the interviews I've conducted, I've learnt practicing meditation and sitting with those thoughts, as uncomfortable it is one of the best ways to improve that relationship with your own thoughts. And then the last thing I encourage people to do is practice kindness more often. And we all know what kindness is, but once you understand just a little bit of the science of the neurochemicals that happen when we're kind to ourselves, whether it's doing the things that we know are good for us, like, eating healthy, sleeping well, drinking enough water, exercising daily, getting in the sunlight, getting in nature. Like, most of us know this stuff, but he actually doing it. So that's what I call being kind to yourself. Like, knowledge is knowing this is good for you, wisdom's actually doing it on a daily basis. So that's one step, being kind to yourself. Being kind to others as well is a great way to make you feel good. When you go to pay for petrol, instead of just tapping your card and walking off disgruntled because you've had a hard day, look at the person in the eyes. Stop for 1 second. Say, hey, I hope you have a great afternoon. Watch them. Smile, which then will make you feel good. Like, we have these moments every day, and I miss them as well. Like, and this is why I love teaching this stuff, because I need these lessons just as much as anyone. And I have the days where I do that and I go, what are you doing? Like, you could have just been a little bit kinder. Like, for instance, and this isn't trying to blow my own horn, this is just to give some simple examples. Like, I go to the farmers markets every Saturday. It's like my favorite time to, take my time, get my fresh fruit. And this was yesterday. I literally was standing in line, and this lady was kind of in line at the same time as me. And she thought I was in front of her in line, and I thought she was in front of me. And I was like, no, you go ahead. I'm in no rush. And she was like, oh, you sure? And I was like, I'm in no rush. This is my chilled Saturday. She's like, oh, thank you so much. And then, like, the guy, when she's like, oh, who's next? She was like, oh, he was actually next, but he let me go. He's a very nice boy. And I was just like, that was just like the microest moment. And it made me feel so good because I was just, gentle and gave somebody, hey, you can have my spot in line. It, like, the smallest little things are like acts of kindness, then will take you on your day, make you feel good. And then this lady's probably like, oh, that was a nice interaction. So, once again, I hope that doesn't sound like I'm trying to like blow my own horn, but it just like we have these moments. And then lastly, with kindness, like being kind to the environment. Like, I used to pick up a bit of rubbish when I'd leave the beach and I'd look around, very external validation driven, which, I'm not happy to share, but I think it's important because I know there's people out there that are very external validation driven. Most of us are, like, I still am. But going like, wait, I'm not going to be kind to the environment because it makes me look good. I'm going to be kind to the environment because it makes me feel good. I'm going to pick up this bit of rubbish and throw it in the bin because, hey, it's making my environment a little bit cleaner, which makes me feel good. And a lot of people, when it comes to, taking better care of the planet, go like, oh, what's the point? Like, picking up a bit of rubbish ain't going to solve the pollution problem. Look at what's going on in Indonesia and here and here. And it's like, well, the goal shouldn't be to change the world. Nobody can fix the world in one go, but it should be to change our world. What, picking up a bit of rubbish makes my world a little bit cleaner. Amazing. Turning off a light switch makes my power bill cheaper and makes me contribute a little bit less. Like, it's not about trying to change the world. Just think a little bit more micro. How can I make my world a little bit better? And then you should feel good when you're doing that. So there's a couple do's. Hopefully the don't at the start is the kind of just main one is like, try not to base your self-worth on that external validation, what other people think of you, because it's so out of your control and they're going to make assumptions and opinions when quite often a lot of people aren't even in the arena with you. This is what I like to say to people is, imagine your life, you're on the football field playing, and the closest people to you, your friends, family, people who know you, are sitting in the stadium. You can take advice from them because they actually know what's going on. They've seen the game that's being played. So many of us are taking advice from people that aren't even in the bloody stadium and see our life, and they just make opinions and assumptions because they think they know, but they don't. They're not in the stadium watching you play. They're on the outskirts just making judgments from a clip that they saw on TV after the game happened. I don't know if that analogy will work, but it helps me when I'm like, you know what, if they're not in the stadium, then their opinion doesn't really matter.
100%. It's not an easy thing to do, but those steps, it makes so much sense. Like, I'm always in the mindset, obviously in sales and marketing, a lot of it is mindset. You get a lot of rejection, you speak to a lot of people and all that. And I just find like any time that I start to lose my cool, lose my head a bit, I just like, sweet, focus outside of you. Most of the time when that sort of stuff it happens, you're focusing on yourself. So I'm like, give a gift. Give a gift to someone. Make someone's day. Do some good deed. And every single time you do that, you feel better. Like,
Yeah, I'll give you a great story of that. And This has been told many times, and people might have heard this, but I'm sure your audience, a lot of people haven't heard this story. But I was in Japan when I was like 20, 21 years old, and right around this time that I was really riding this roller coaster of if I won in my surf comps, I was feeling really good about myself, external validation. If I was doing poorly, I felt very less and, like not a good person. And this first day of this big event me and my friends had, we all lost and we're like, fuck, this sucks. Like, what are we going to do to make ourselves feel better? And one of the boys was like, let's go to Tokyo. We'll go shopping. That'll make us feel good. And we're like, great, good idea. So we went to Tokyo, we did some shopping and we're feeling a bit better. And then we went home that night to where we're staying like an hour out of Tokyo. And we went out to dinner and we're at this sushi restaurant. This guy was making a sushi and he was kind of like sitting right next to where I was sitting, and I got to have a bit of a chat to him. And he said to me like, "Oh, how's your day?" And I was like, "No, we came all the way to Japan for this big surf contest, but we lost this today, first round, so we're pretty bummed. But we went to Tokyo, I went shopping today, so we're feeling a bit better." And he said, you guys have got it all wrong." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "In the Western world, you all say when you're having a bad day, go and buy yourself something. That'll make you feel good." And I was like, "Yeah, retail therapy." And what he said was, "What we say here in my family and in my culture is when you're having a bad day, don't go and buy yourself something. Go and do something nice for somebody else. That'll actually make you feel good." And anyone listening right now, I want you to just think like the last time you did something nice for a friend, a family member, even a stranger, like how'd it feel? It feels good. And when we start to really think about the fact that we live in this capitalistic world now, that everywhere we look in the Western world is marketing. Some of the highest paid psychologists, neuroscientists, human behavior specialists work for these mega corporations in marketing. And there you go, you're a marketer. And their job is to tell you when you buy this product, then you'll be happy. When you go on that holiday to Bali, then you'll be happy. When you go to McDonald's and you buy a Happy Meal, then you'll be happy. Like all of this is right in front of our faces, and it's all so subconscious. And as a marketer, from the colors to the wording to the this to the that, like when we start to stop and think, like, well, wait a second. No, no, no. Like kindness, the science leads to when we're kind, that actually makes us happy. The science leads to when we're grateful, that actually makes us happy. When we practice mindfulness, that actually makes us feel good. So we need to kind of flip the mindset and really pull back and get the perspective of like, wait a second. Some of the most smart people in the world's job is to tell me that I'll be feeling good when I get this product, where really these things that nobody's profiting off are actually the things that'll make you feel good. So hopefully anyone listening right now might, through that story and through that awareness might recognize that just that little bit more next time they're, getting sold something in an ad.
Massive, massive.
And what's your take on that as someone working in marketing? You can probably concur completely. Like it's your job in marketing. It's not saying it's evil. It's just being aware of it.
100%, 100%. It is like, well, if you were looking at a marketing perspective, to get reoccurring customers, you're looking for something that isn't just that quick thing. You are looking for something that actually genuinely helps people, genuinely gives them a longer term feel good feeling, which it's rare to get a long term feel good feeling from something that actually isn't good for them, unless you're talking about addictions and that sort of stuff. But overall, it's all positive stuff from that. And yeah, I very much agree with all of the stuff you said there. Kind of narrowing down into just the gratitude and that sort of thing. I'm sure it's happened to yourself. I'm sure it's happened to a lot of people listening to this. It's happened to myself before. But I guess when you're doing those gratitudes, sometimes I feel like I'm not as present as I'd like to be. Sometimes I feel like it doesn't have the effect as it used to, being reflecting, being gratitude. Do you have any advice on kind of how to make the most of each and every gratitude thing you do? And if there are any other questions you kind of pose yourself in terms of journaling that you find beneficial?
Yeah, I'll give you a great one for this, and this completely changed my life when I learned this around gratitude. And I got told this by my psychologist. He said gratitude shouldn't be a thought up in your head. It should be a feeling down in your heart and in your gut. And I promise you, if you haven't heard that before, now whenever you practice gratitude, you'll do it very differently. Because I was the same. I'd start having a bad day, and I'd think I'm grateful for I live on the beach. I'm grateful that, I've got, a beautiful family. But then when you actually let it sit back down in your heart and you go, wow, yeah, it just sits a bit differently. I don't know if that lands better for you. So that's the first thing I'll say about gratitude is try not to make it a thought up in your head. Try and make it a feeling. And for me, to be honest, I'm not very good at journaling. I've tried my hardest. I've got some amazing journals. I've done journals with my goals with the Good Human Factory, but I'm just not much of a writer, which is funny. I actually just got a big international book deal. So I need to write a 60,000 word book in the next 6 months. So I will learn how to write. But Yeah, I've never really, I guess my writing is just doing my gratitudes on my Instagram each day and stopping for a few moments and trying to not make gratitude about these grand things, but really going smaller. And that's why I say to people, just focus on
Mm,
what were the three best parts about your day. Because as much as it might be hard sometimes, you might be like, I'm grateful that the sun was out today. I'm grateful that, I got to wake up in a warm bed. I'm grateful. Like, it's just about finding these little things that maybe we don't notice very often. I'm grateful that I've got 20/20 vision. Like, there's so many things that we all take for granted. I mean, especially if you're listening to this in Australia, and I'll never take away from the challenges that people are facing. But if you live in Australia and you're listening to this right now, we are 0.3% of the global population. That means right now you have to be holding a dice with 133 faces on it and roll it to land on number one to be here in Australia. The chances of you being here in Australia, like, we are so fucking lucky.
mm,
And that's just a simple one. But then I understand that I have like so much like I know didn't come from financial. Like, it was a very middle class family. I had three sisters, so we always just got by because we had a lot of kids. But I also understand that I have a lot more than so many. So I think so many of us are comparing across and up, which is important to be inspired, but not enough of us kind of look across and down the scale of, privilege and what we've got. So I think it's important to look forward, to be inspired, and, I hope I can get to here, but not be disheartened by it. But also actually look across and down sometimes and go like, wow, I've got, a lot more than a lot of people. And not to feel guilty about that, but just to, hopefully feel a bit of ease with that. So, a couple little gratitude things I like to share.
Yeah. I feel like it's a phrase you would have heard 1,000 times, but the phrase always sticks with me. I got taught it when I was very new in the industry. It just the phrase millions of people would trade their best day for your worst day.
Mm,
Just that mindset really, really put me in a state of giving,
yeah.
and a state of gratitude. I found that to be really, really effective.
Yeah,
Um,
one more. I'll give you one quote just for gratitude. It's a good one to keep in your mind. My dad told me this when I was a kid every day. He'd say, "Appreciate life's about appreciation, not expectation." And so many of us just have so much expectation of people to do stuff for us, or I deserve this, and it's like, you know what? Just focus your attention on appreciation. That, hey, even if someone said they were going to do this for you and they don't, it's like, well, I'm appreciative that I've got someone who's going to say that, like. I don't know. It's just how I try and view the world because I'm like, so many people carry around so much resentment, and it was something that I had a lot of when I kind of lost my major sponsor for surfing and got told like, hey, we don't think you're good enough, and I was still ranked like 40th in the world, and I was like, well, this sucks. This guy's getting paid more than me, who I'm ranked way higher than. Like, screw the world. And then I remember one day I was sitting in South Africa about to paddle out for one of my big surf contests, and at the time, I was working full time for my friend's landscaping company, like 50 hours a week when I was home. So then I could go away and do my 1 week away for a surf comp, once every month or every second month. And I was sitting on the beach just with this shitty mindset. And then I just like stopped and thought that sentence that my dad would say to me, like, appreciation, not expectation. And I just snapped to this point where I was like, wait a second, I'm like about to paddle out to go surfing, doing something I love. Sure, there's kids over here getting paid money to do it like I used to, but there's also all the guys that I work at digging holes back in Australia, doing the landscaping work, and I'm like here complaining I'm surfing in South Africa with my friends. Like, be grateful, not be resentful. So, it's just these like shifting your perspective from like what do I have rather than what don't I have, and it is hard sometimes, but I try my best to live like that as much as I can.
I love it. I love it. Now, this is a question. I'm someone I've just turned 22. I'd still like to say I'm
Good. Still
still,
young. I'm 30.
yeah, you're looking good, mate. Well done. He's got the big 3-0. Nice. Um, I've got a lot to learn, and I feel like I'm someone that is very much focused on my business, my career. I moved out of home from Adelaide to Sydney at 19 to go open up a business in Sydney. So I've been pretty focused on that. I'm not going to lie. So not that I took away relationships and all these sort of things, but I definitely didn't have it as the primary focus. But now leaning into it, I'm really understanding that I've learned a lot from that. I think the relationships around you, if you get it right, they're the things that'll make everything run even better. I'm sure you've had some times with that as well. So the question is pretty simple. It's what relationship advice do you have for those looking at building their businesses, their careers? They've got big goals there, but are also wanting to maintain really strong and healthy relationships with the closest people around them.
Yeah, it is a tough one, obviously, when your business and your drive for success in the, speech bubbles here, can get quite, hazy of like, oh, okay, you kind of put all your water in this bucket and the rest of them aren't really full. Um, I mean, for me, a big one is just communication. I have an amazing partner. She's in Brazil right now. She lives in Brazil, and something that I purposefully try and do each day is communicate. And when I say communicate, like she lives with me here in Australia usually, but she's back home for a little while. But even when she lives here, I'd been in relationships, in other relationships in my life where would be together and would live together and would have like, interactions every day, and that would feel like, hey, we're connecting. But then with this new partner, she's very big on like, actually, if you have something that's triggering, like, let's talk about it and let's get to the bottom of it, and rather than resent you and play this game in your head and make out all these stories, like, never assume what somebody's thinking or feeling, actually just asking them. And when you're building a business and it does take a lot of time and a lot of energy, and you maybe don't have that much time for the people around you, is realizing that, what's the point of growing this massive thing if you don't have people around you to share it with? So I think trying to find that balance and recognize that, our relationships are the most important things in our life. Like, if your business fails, you're going to want to fall back on people around you. So don't sacrifice everything for your business. And yeah, I mean, I'm not really the best advice person, to be honest, when it comes to like relationships and communication. I just try my best with it, but I think, yeah, just realizing that the relationships we have with people around us is everything. And I've built a life and a career now where I'm very busy, but I also have quite a lot of free time during the week and days that I can kind of go and do stuff that I want to do. So, trying to pencil in the time to go and spend time with mates, because it's yeah, it can be very easy to make stuff just disappear into the background because work's so busy. But whether it's working out with a mate on the weekend, or catching up for a dinner once or twice a week, and chatting about things that are going on in your life is so important.
Mm, mm. It's yeah, it is really one of those things. I've always focused on my business and all that sort of stuff, and like, yeah, that'll happen, that'll come. I've got time, but yeah, really reflecting on it, like just this simple phrase, and it makes so much sense. Is sweet. Like, if you lose those things, you need the people around you.
Yeah.
Like, you need those people around you, and like, I think for those, and you'd be the exact same. You're pretty careful on who you have around you, making sure that they are providing a positive influence on that. Um,
I choose my friends wisely, but I also don't just, I don't know, I've been very lucky. The people who kind of orbit towards me are just seem to be really good humans. I feel like any friends who are mine who will introduce me to someone, it's usually like a good person. And to be honest, I see the good in everyone. If I see someone who I kind of don't agree with why they're acting a certain way, or doing something that I don't agree with, I try and just like, instead of have get furious towards it or get triggered by it, just like get curious. Like, I wonder what life they've lived for them to act like this and have those self beliefs and this view on the world. Like, I wonder what they've had to go through to get to this point in their life to be doing something that maybe I completely don't agree with. But instead of judging them, just trying to like be curious. And I don't know, I just feel like it brings so much more control back into your emotional state and awareness. It's like, all right, I'm in control. Like, instead of letting this person's actions, get angry at them or get pissed off at them, or, get furious at them, go like, I wonder what they're going through or why they're acting like this. And even if someone wrongs me, it's like it's very hard to do this, when someone's, judging you about something that you've done that, instead of like, trying to fight back, just going like, you know what, like, if it's made you feel like that, like, I apologize, and, I'll try to be better next time.
mhm. Mm. It's it's a very clear time that I want to ask this. You've now said you're 30 years old, so this question I think is the perfect time to be asking it, mate. I obviously just turned 22. I'm pretty keen on making the most of my 20s, not just in terms of money, but I really look at, instead of success, it's fulfillment. Just really getting the most out of it, squeezing the most lemon juice out of the lemon, as I like to say. Uh, what advice do you think you would give to 20-year-old you on how they would go about making the most of their 20s again if you were to get another shot at it?
Um, ooh, I mean, if it's me back to me at 20, I was very lucky that, I was traveling the world surfing professionally at the time. But if I was to give that advice back to myself, and this is probably a good one for anyone, I was very lucky. I was traveling the world a lot with um, what I was doing, but I probably didn't appreciate it enough. So just like looking at your 20s, like, wow, this is like when, I don't really have those strong roots tied into the ground. Like, you're not a tree, you can get up and travel, you can go and experience things. And when those little opportunities come up, taking them, like, you can make money when you're, a bit older. You can obviously make money when you're young too, but when you're young, it's the ability to like get up and go have those big all night party nights and wake up and not be as hungover as now I feel when I'm 30. And um, yeah, just being curious to meeting people, building your network, and continually learning. Like when I was in my early 20s, I had a pretty closed mindset. I felt like I knew everything. I felt like I knew what was going on. And probably didn't lean into educating myself and being around inspiring people. I was very, external validation driven in my early 20s. So I think if I could say something to myself in my early 20s is don't be scared to learn, keep educating yourself. Try and live by values, not by external validation. Live in that hero mindset, things that you can control rather than that victim mindset, things that are out of your control. And just bloody enjoy yourself. Like I said before, I didn't think I could be as happy as I thought. Like, I was pretty happy back then, but now with this contentment, I wish I got to carry that mindset through my 20s. Like, I traveled the world and I used to like lose in a surf comp in Brazil and pay money to change my flights to go home like 2 days earlier and forfeit like the extra accommodation I had. And I look back and I'm like, you idiot. I'd love to like go travel as much as I did back then now. Like, go experience places, go find things that you'll never get to do again in your life. And now I have that mindset when I go to random places in the world, like I might never come back here again. I want to see as much as I can and really get to experience the most of stuff.
Mm, mm. A really selfish question in that is around the idea of instant versus delayed gratification.
Mm,
Because I can put my hand up and say that there's been times where I haven't gone to a party or haven't gone to a thing because I'm so focused in on what I'm doing and the mindset, sweet, work hard now for that thing later, and really trying to keep myself in that because obviously TikTok, Instagram, everything's set up to kind of prime that dopamine. Um, you talk about obviously making the most of your 20s and experiencing those things, and I feel like it'd be an interesting one trying to find the balance of, yes, obviously experiencing those things, but also at times staying grounded to what your true thing is. I don't know if you've got any opinions on that.
yeah, it's an interesting question because I mean I'm 30. I haven't got like a property. Like there's so many things that I wish or like hoped that I'd have at 30. I wish I'd bought a property. I wish I was, getting ready to. I mean, I am, in a committed relationship and hopefully gonna be trying for kids in the next year or two. So there's some things I've ticked off, but I think just understanding like you're on your own journey. There's no. I've interviewed like having your podcast. I've interviewed 180 different people and everybody's life's different. And once you start to realize that, like, there's no right or wrong way to do it, just do it your way and don't feel the need to be doing it in any other way. Um, yeah, I think that's just sort of something to say. So, like, if it feels right to you to stay home and work on your business because you want to, be further ahead financially and have that freedom in your 30s, then hey, that's your path. Don't feel, oh, am I doing it right or wrong? Like, you're doing it your way. I don't know if that answers the question, but
Fantastic
yeah.
answer. Yeah, I feel like that's the one way to answer it. It's everyone's on their own journey. Yeah, I
Mm.
love that. I love that. Now jumping into it, it is kind of last, but I did want to get a little bit of business into it as well. Um, I'm very curious. You've obviously jumped into it. Don't know if you had too much business experience before jumping into this sort of stuff. It makes it exciting to hear that that is zero because I'm sure there's a lot of people listening to this that are probably in the same boat or in a similar boat, but are wanting to do stuff, wanting to make an impact and wanting to get the fulfillment that comes with building value and helping other people. Um, what do you think your biggest lessons that you've learned? What advice do you have on how to build out a successful brand and company? What advice do you have?
Yeah, I've got a few things that like I wish I did differently and things that I think are quite valuable. I think the first one, first and foremost, like I came from a professional surfing career where, I was ranked in the top 100 on the planet for close to, 6, 7, 8 years. But it took me 15 years to get to there from, 8 years when I started to when I was 20 to 30, like 12 years to get to that top 100. And then, 5 years of staying there. I think so many people come from either maybe something somewhat successful or something that they're quite good at, and then try and start their own new business and expect to be like at the top and killing it straight away. The mindset that it took me a minute to adapt, but once I got it, it just made me feel so much less pressure. Was you're an apprentice right now. You're going to take 4 years, like an apprenticeship, to learn the skills of business, to learn like how to get better at what you're doing. And then once you've finished your 4 years, yeah, maybe then you can charge like a little bit below like an apprentice wage. Maybe then you can feel like you deserve, a little bit more. So that's one thing. Like, don't have expectation. Once again, have appreciation, but don't have expectation that you're going to be killing it straight away. I wish I had that mindset. The second thing that I think was really big for me was when I first, like, this is specific to what I was doing, but I was delivering workshops. And at the time, I was like, struggling financially because I'm doing this job. And so I was trying to like charge people like $500 for my initial workshops. When looking back, they weren't worth that. They were terrible. I wish I offered my service for free and then gathered feedback, because then that's how you improve. And you get feedback, and from the very start, really learning to adopt the mindset of like, there's no negative feedback. You either get negative feedback, and that's ways to improve. Like, that's constructive criticism. Instead of taking it to heart, whenever you get criticized, you should always ask, where's the truth in what they're saying? And if there's truth in it, amazing. Like, they've said it for a reason. That's their experience. You have to validate their truth. So, okay, I can use that to improve. Great. So your negative feedback or constructive feedback, it helps you improve. And then your positive feedback, amazing. You use that for marketing. So learning that like all feedback in my mind is positive. So I wish I'd learned that earlier in my time. It took me a while, and I let the ego get hurt. When someone would say something about my workshop, I'd be like, oh no, but this, and I'd be like, well, wait a second. They've said it for a reason. That's their experience. How can I mold that experience to be more positive next time? So that's a big one. And then that also really helps with imposter syndrome. I
Mm.
started a business that had no, um, like I'm not, and I still carry this imposter syndrome. Like, I'm make it very clear, hopefully, to people, like, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not, a mental health expert. I'm not a mental illness expert. I'm just someone who's really curious about how can I do things that make me feel better. And I've been lucky enough to interview a lot of people and find what works for them, add it into my life, and then try and share the information. Like, I try very hard never to give direct one-on-one advice, because, I'm not qualified for that, but hopefully these things that I've been curious enough to learn and then share out can help people. So yeah, the imposter syndrome has been a big one. By getting feedback, and then the hundreds and the thousands of positive bits of feedback I've got now have really lowered that imposter syndrome of like, who am I to be doing this?
Mm.
There's a couple little things that hopefully might help people on their journey starting business. Like, I got into it, as I said earlier in the chat, not knowing that public speaking was like a lucrative thing. And once I've improved my skills now, I'm working with companies like, Westpac, McDonald's, Amazon, Red Bull. And I mean, now I do quite well for myself. So it took a while to get to here. But then also diversifying, like for me, I've built like an ecosystem of like kind of um, revenue funnels. Like my podcast, I mean, my podcast used to make me a bit of money. I don't have any sponsorship at the moment. It's kind of taken the back burner a bit. I still do 2 episodes a week. But that's more so to build network. But then I do my merchandise, so I have a funnel for income there, and then my workshop. But they all are in the same ecosystem. That people who listen to the workshop will go listen to the podcast and buy some merch. The people who are part of the 1% community might then book me for a workshop. The people who are listen to the workshop might go listen to the podcast. So I've built like an ecosystem where everything kind of like helps each other. But yeah, there hopefully are a couple little bits of things that I wish I knew in my job at the start. And like I said, I have no business experience. I've made so many mistakes, but I'm just trying to always fail forward and not see failure as, failure, see it as learning lessons.
100%. What I got out of this really simple was just consistency, patience, and being a good student.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree.
Consistency, patience, and being a good student. I think I always go to the phrase people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 10 years.
Yeah.
That's the one I always remind myself of, because to me, that keeps me in the perfect zone. And it's one of those like the work rate expectations thing as well. You've kind of alluded to a bit before. It's like, sweet, just stay consistent. I recorded a podcast a while back with a guy called Josh Carvey, legend. And it's funny the way he set this up is like the one piece of advice I'd give is be sticky. And I'm like, wait, what do you mean? What? It sounds a bit weird. What do you mean by that? It's just stick around. Just stick around longer than people around you. The real reason people win isn't it is
Yeah, give,
intensity, but it really is that consistency.
yeah,
Because that's where you really get the compounding effect of the lessons you've learned. And I think you've been
yeah.
able to certainly do that over the last little while, which is fantastic. Um,
And I'm lucky, like I feel like every day I'm working my ass off, but I'm also not working at all. I'd do it for free if I had, just money inheritance somewhere sitting there. I'd go and do all the stuff that I'm doing for free. So it's yeah, nice to be able to try and shift perspectives and add value to people's lives wherever I can.
Fantastic. And the last question I want to go into this on is this is simple. Um, what excites you right now? Whether it be the Good Human Factory, the Good Human Podcast, what excites you about the future of what you're doing?
I mean, this LSKD collab's really exciting. I've got some amazing content about to get dropped with them. So I'm really keen to see what comes from that. But as I said, I don't even know if I meant to share this, but yeah, just this week I'm signing a big book deal with Wiley Publishing to do a book that's going to be called the 1% Good Club. This whole theory that we should give 1% of our day to our mental health. So it'll take people through a bit of my journey, some of the lessons I've shared today, and then also a bunch of these different healthy habits I've learned from my experts on my podcast, teach the science behind it, how I integrate them into my life, some of the stories from the guests, and then hopefully when people finish reading the book, they agree, hey, I want to take care of my mental health a little better and give 1% of my day to my mental health. So when you finish reading the book, you're part of the 1% Good Club. So yeah, it's really exciting to have to learn how to write. I've got to do 60,000 words in the next 6 months, which is very daunting, but also very exciting to be able to, put my life and my lessons into a package of a book and get it out to the world. So that's something I'm excited for.
That's phenomenal, man. That's phenomenal. It's something we always do in my business when we promote someone is we always give them a book, and it's
Oh,
normally around sales, leadership, and different things like that. But I think I'll be sending you a couple photos in due course of some of the new guys receiving your book. I think that'd be pretty darn
yeah,
cool.
amazing. I appreciate that's a great thing. I think anyone who like hears the concept goes like, yeah, I can agree. That's probably a book that I should read. Like, 'cause yeah. So that's why yeah, the publisher's really excited because it's more than me. Like, as much as like it's going to be through my story, I hope it's bigger than that. It's more this concept that people are like, yeah, I want to be part of that movement of giving that 1% to my mental health.
Fantastic. And now to finish, as I always do, we go through the most important questions. Not to say the other questions I didn't ask weren't important, but these are the most important.
Cool.
Are you ready?
I am.
Number one, what is your biggest pet peeve?
My biggest pet peeve when people don't take accountability.
Hmm, done. I like it. Your favorite pastime to unwind? What do you do?
Unwind. I was gonna say I love playing golf. Like getting to go out and just spend 4 hours on the golf course with my mates, no phones, and just enjoy it. Golf.
I was gonna say sometimes I'm not unwinding when that's happening. Depends how I
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Number three, would you rather never listen to music again or never read a book again? Which one would you take?
Oh. Can I listen to audiobooks?
That's the one you cannot listen to audiobooks. It's either music or books. Which are you taking out?
Oh, that's a hard one. I think I would go no books and just try and watch a lot of documentaries because I mean my brother-in-law's Fisher and I think going to music concerts and experiencing music is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I was
I
gonna
do
say.
love books though, so that's
I
hard.
was gonna say telling Fisher that you can't go to any more of his concerts would probably be a
Yeah, but I can't even read my own book, so that's a bit of a shit one for me.
yeah. I was gonna say. You can listen to your podcast though. That's a win.
Yeah, there you go.
Perfect. And the last one on that. Painting the scene. 10 years time. You're 40 years old. What three words would you hope people describe you as?
Kind, generous, inspiring.
I love it. What a way to finish. And now, as we always do, I pass it over to the guests. Don't know if you've had a bit of a think about this or be on the spot. I always get a book, a podcast, and a movie recommendation from the guest. I'm just going to chuck it to you. I would love to hear a book, a podcast, and a movie recommendation.
Okay, I'll give you a book. I just started. I never listened to audiobooks, but I just started re-listening to this, and I think it's a book that everyone should read. It's called "The Mountain Is You" by Brianna Wiest. Have you read it?
My roommate's reading it right now. I've read parts of it. I haven't finished it.
If you got Spotify, audiobooks are free. Somebody only just told me this the other day. So you literally don't even need to get Audible. You can go on Spotify and like all audiobooks are free. So I just started listening to it on Spotify and yeah, it's just fascinating. It's just this idea of a lot of the stuff I've spoken about, taking responsibility. Like there's always going to be external reasons why things aren't going our way, but when we can point that finger at ourselves and understand the mountain to overcome is ourselves, then yeah, it's a really powerful book. I just started listening to it. I've read it before, so I'll give you that one as a good one.
Love it.
I've got, yeah, I wish I could give you more, but
Sweet. Any podcast recommendations? Obviously, yours is phenomenal. Do you have any others?
um, I mean, I'll give you an episode. I just did an episode with Harry Mack, the American rapper, who's like a freestyle improvised rapper, which was just my biggest episode
He's
I've ever
insane.
done.
He's insane.
It's insane. So that episode's amazing. I think that's episode 178 of my podcast, Good Humans with Cooper Chapman. Other podcasts to listen to. I mean, I love the Diary of a CEO. I think he's getting some really fascinating people to learn from, and that's what I love to listen to. So yeah, probably Diary of a CEO. Stephen
Perfect.
Bartlett.
Love it. And the last one, the movie recommendation. This doesn't have to be educational. This can be just what's you? What do you go to? What movie do you like?
Hmm. What movie do I like? Can I give a TV
Go
series?
for it. 100%.
I don't know why this came to mind. I watch like heaps of documentaries and true crime and just like world things, but Ancient Apocalypse I find is really fascinating. I'm a bit of a not conspiracy, but maybe a little bit of a conspiracy guy that thinks we don't get told the whole truth about a lot of things. So Ancient Apocalypse, Graham Hancock, just learning about ancient civilizations and mega monoliths and why the pyramids and stuff just don't make sense. I find that's a good bit of a thought jerker.
That's cool. I'm going to check that out. That
Oh
sounds
my
now
God, you haven't watched it on Netflix? Unbelievable. Watch it and let me know what you think. It'll make you think.
done. I'm going to check that out. That sounds right down my alleyway. I love it. I've never heard of
I
that
think
one.
another one. I think it's on Amazon Prime called Our Universe, and it kind of explains like how many weird things happened in the billions of years of the Earth hitting this and this rock happening and the ice that hit our Earth, and that's why we've got oceans. Like the amount of micro millions of things that have happened for us to be here right now just blow. And once again, that's what brings me back to gratitude. It's just like we have these problems, but like we're just so lucky that we're like living in this world, and right now in this world, like yeah, it's crazy.
I
So
love it.
that's another
I
good.
love it. Perfect. So we've got the book, The Mountain Is You. We've got the podcast, episode 178 of the Good Humans podcast with Harry Mack. I love it. And then we got the TV series, Ancient Apocalypse. Go check it out because I certainly am.
Yeah.
That's it. I love it. As I said at the start, very grateful to have time from yourself. I know you're a very busy man. You make a lot of impact everywhere. You very much could have charged me for your time now. I'm glad you didn't.
Only-
But I love everything you've said. There's a lot in this. I'm going to be spreading the word on this a lot. And I think you've certainly just helped me a good amount, not just with this episode, but again, thank you for what you've provided over the past couple of years because I've certainly got a lot out of it. And I'm sure a lot of people have as well. But other than that, I'm very excited to see what you tick off over the next coming months and years, LSKD. I hope that launch goes great, and I'm excited for your book. But other than that, we will leave it at that. Very much appreciate your time, Cooper Chapman.
So much, brother. It's been an absolute pleasure to catch up on me Sunday morning with you.
Love it.